Well, we're officially a third of the way through the 2021 NPLW season in Victoria. And so, naturally, the cycle begins for the second time. But before we go into round 8, and of course the first game of the second third of the season, we must cover our round 7 clash. Now, squad-wise, pretty standard where we've been the past few weeks. Not so much change-wise. Solid bench. So there's definitely options to keep us going throughout the full 90. First half, not a lot that could be overly said. Purely because things just felt a bit average at times. But perhaps that's less a comment upon ourselves and more so a comment upon our opponents, which Alamein did play very good football. Indeed, a mark of that was the fact that they were the first to strike. So it's fair to say things were a little bit frustrating for ourselves. But drawing out a 1-1 draw to end the first 45 at least ended it on a more positive note. Certainly, it was a game that felt more play from the defence as opposed to the offence, or our attack, which is in some ways a bit irregular because we had very much been relying on our efforts up both the left and the right wings just to control the flow of the game and get goals up there. And of course, naturally, yes, when we were playing our game, that was happening, that was occurring, and we were making inroads into the Alamein box. But it still came down to defensive efforts to hold the line. And at least that can be taken in a few ways. Perhaps a more positive way to look at it was being that over the past few weeks of the season, our defence have been working hard, have been improving their game, and have shown that they are very much senior footballers and they deserve to be there just like the rest of the squad. And perhaps this was down to continued development. Perhaps the introduction of a very prominent Matildas player in Jenna McCormick entering the South Melbourne squad for the game. Perhaps that too also played a great weight upon the balance of our defensive prowess against Alamein. Now, second half certainly improved. Again, things felt a bit arsey at times, but perspective-wise, was that a fact of just how we were playing on the day, or was it more a fact of just the quality of Alamein? Now, while we can't exactly speak for the quality of Alamein in terms of exposure, as we only see them at best 3 times a season. It's not like we are making extensive notes, either physically or mentally, about what Alamein do and do not do. So, of course, we always need to take a few grains of salt with anything we do say and anything we do see. But certainly, the greater efforts were in the second half, and it did seem like whatever the gaffer said down in the change rooms certainly put a little bit of extra kick into the gear and it allowed us to get goals 2 and 3 to seal the result. But otherwise, not too much more that could be said overall about our round 7 clash. aside from restaying the 3-1 result. Beyond that, let's of course look at what's been happening across the remainder of the grounds. To open up last weekend, Box Hill hosted Calder. Calder were 3-0 victors over Box Hill. Bayside hosted FV Emerging, to which they were perhaps expectedly beaten rather firmly, losing 5-1 at Kingston Heath. And Bulleen hosted Heidelberg in a rather interesting 3-2 score. Now, as we look across the table, in first place, we stand alone and very solidly on 18 points. The only downside is perhaps a singular loss, which would make things all the more sweeter. But regardless, with 18 points and a plus 12 goal difference, we are very much in a solid position for the second third of this campaign. Speaking of seconds, we have Calder United on 15 points with a plus 14 goal difference. Certainly helped by their weekend's result. In third, we have FV Emerging, also on 15 points with plus 11. In fourth place, we have Bulleen Lions, also on 15 points with a plus 7 goal difference. Someone who isn't on 15 points is Alamein, having 10 points to their names and a neutral goal difference. As for Heidelberg, being in 6th place, they have 7 points to their name and a -1 goal difference. It still remains plus 3 points for Box Hill with a minus 19 goal difference. With Bayside still yet get off the mark with a minus 24 goal difference. Ouch. Now, I don't know how much you can really say about a league which only has 8 teams in it. But what I can say is that we are certainly spoilt for competition within the top half. With only 3 points dividing 4 teams at this point in the season. That is quite good to see. Otherwise, our main, not particularly far away from ourselves, only an 8-point difference. Heidelberg, again, being a bit further down, their gap of 8 points is perhaps a bit more significant, and certainly perhaps a hallmark of that is where the divide is for the season so far. 6th and lower are perhaps out of contention unless they turn things around in this third, which might not come to fruition. Again, it all depends on what they do. Alamein 5th. I mean, 5 points isn't much of a gap. It's something that can easily be won back. But it's still perhaps a bit of an indicator that if they carry on the way they are, that gap will naturally grow a bit further, and bring themselves back into finals contention might prove to be a far more difficult feat than it is at this current stage. As the top 4, all rather solid, all rather competitive, and all very much on the front foot in terms of attacking. All us top 4 sides have all scored at least a goal a game, which is good, it's consistent, it's what all front lines need to be scoring consistently against all competition. While some have been slightly more successful than others, with FV Emerging just a little bit over a goal a game, and ourselves a bit more above FB's goal a game. Again, its decimal differences doesn't make too much of a difference, but regardless, top four all making a goal a game is goal a game. Hang on. 3 goals a game, not a goal a game. Right. If anyone needs a maths tutor, don't hire us. We're a bit shite. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to round 8 fixtures. Of course, we should all be vaguely familiar with the teams facing each other in a lineup as it is. Every 7 games, same opponents. What does change is, of course, the days, the times, and the locations. And so, on that note, on the Saturday, Alamein will be hosting Cordia United from Knox at 3 p.m. South Melbourne will be hosting Bulleen Lions from Lakeside at 4 p.m. also on the Saturday. On the Sunday, at Knox, FV Immersion will be hosting Heidelberg United from 3 p.m. From 3:10 p.m. at Wembley Park, Box Hill United will be hosting Bayside United. Now, beyond that, there isn't too much more of note, but something I would like to bring to the attention of our footballing community is, of course, the count for our Man of the Match awards, the UCAs, the very famous UCAs. Now, while there is no one really leading the pack, so to speak, one thing we can say is how impressed we are with the diversity of players who have been awarded our coveted prize, which in every fixture we've had so far, we have had a different UCA winner, which just goes to show the depth and quality of our side and just how much competition there is for places across the pitch. So very, very well done to our winners, of course, but especially to those who perhaps haven't won the UCA yet, but have been noted in their efforts across numerous fixtures. Good example of that is perhaps Mr. Barbieri, who in probably every single fixture we've had to date in the league, we have made note of her efforts in controlling the team, not just defensively, but to an extent controlling the midfield, dictating play from her position, who's only just managed to win her inaugural UCA in the 7th round of the league. And if someone like Barbieri, who is constantly, consistently impressing us, has to wait so far long to be the absolute, undisputed, yes, best on field, end of, at least that, I think, says a lot about just the quality and depth of South Melbourne's squad this season. And of course, we've continually had it being bolstered over the past few weeks with the return of Ayres, the introduction of Omia, the introduction of McCormick last weekend, as well as young defender of Nopolis. I've got the name right. We're spoilt for choice, we're spoilt for quality, and we are getting the results. So, now what? Why don't we carry on carrying forward and continue our tremendous league performance, continue in our efforts in the Nike FC Cup, of which we are through to the quarterfinals. And hey, bit of a strange thought. How about this year? We go and we bring every bit of silverware we can. Because I most certainly think, I'm sure this is an opinion shared not just by ourselves as the lass, but the wider community, both from juniors, from parents, from those who are just mere supporters like ourselves, to the coaching staff, to the players, to all who play a part in South Melbourne Football Club. We all know in our hearts that this year is going to be our year. And on that bombshell, it's fair to say we have now been jinxed. And if anyone's going to get relegated, it would be because of our mutterings. Oh well, if that is the case, we'll see you next year. Otherwise, hopefully, we'll be seeing you this weekend as we take on Bulleen Lions, depending on what current social developments are in the mix.